Hey, all you cool cats and kittens and students. I'm now going to read part 2 of chapter 2 of Dragonwings by Lawrence Yep. Make sure you read the notes underneath this YouTube link on the Class Dojo page, and also the questions that are underneath this YouTube video, so that you can answer them and turn them into me as soon as possible. So here we go. This chapter was called The Company, April 1903. The poem hung above Lefty's ironing board. There were other more conventional pious sayings upon the walls, ones like, "Peace and prosperity upon this store." They had been written by a man who had belonged to the company before us, and there was one strip, faded and smoke-smudged by time, which had been written by one of the men who had founded the company and who had long since died. The founder had written, "The 3 virtues of the stranger are to be silent, to be cunning, but above all to be invisible." Uncle told me that the warning had been taken from one of the Middle Kingdom's oldest books, Classic of Changes. All of us went up the stairs that led to the 2nd floor. This was used as a kitchen and relaxation room, where the company could read or gossip or play mahjong, the game with tiles that is something like the Demons' card game of gin rummy. On the 3rd floor were our sleeping quarters. The dinner we had that night was the finest I had ever had. White Deer was the cook. He was a devout Buddhist who ate no meat and so few vegetables that I doubt if a grasshopper could have lived on what he ate. Still, he was one of the finest cooks around. At 60, White Deer was the 2nd oldest in the company. Technically speaking, White Deer, Uncle, and Handclap were all partners. Handclap had originally sold his share of the laundry to the other 2 when he returned home to the Middle Kingdom, but now that he had come back to the land of the Golden Mountain, he had bought back his share. Lefty, Black Dog, who is Uncle's son, Father, and I only worked for wages till the day we could buy a junior partnership. But White Deer and Handclap never lorded it over any of us. We were all equally under Uncle's orders. At any rate, White Deer outdid himself that day. He made duck with the skin parted and crisped, and the meat salty and rich and good. He had cooked squab in soy sauce so that the skin and meat were a deep, deep brown all the way to the bone. There was shark's fin soup tasting of the sea. There were huge prawns fried in a special batter that gave them an extra fluffy coat. And on and on. But we weren't allowed to touch any of the courses until we had the toasts. Lefty raised up a cup of wine in his left hand. His right arm he held behind his back, as he often did. Handclap had warned me beforehand not to stare. Like many another lonely man, Lefty had taken up gambling the way others might have taken up drinking or dope. It was something to fill in the long, empty hours. As Handclap had told me, Lefty bought his ticket home, but the night before he was to leave, he tried to double his money. Not only did he lose all his money, but his ticket home as well. In despair, the next morning, because he would not see his family for at least another 5 years, he had taken a cleaver and cut off his right hand, the hand that held the dice. The hand that had held the dice. Lefty came from Canton, so he spoke a different dialect from ours. There was a kind of polish on Lefty, which is perhaps why he was picked to give the toast. Lefty held up his cup of wine. The wines of the Tang people are of a very high alcoholic content, and much stronger than demon wines. In fact, the 60-proof demon brandy was what Uncle called wine. "A toast," Lefty said, "to our youngest brother, Moonshadow, the son of the brilliant Wind Rider. May Moonshadow work hard, may he become rich soon, may he return home even sooner." Everyone drank to that. Uncle tossed his drink back in one gulp. "Dry cup," he announced, and turned his cup upside down. Not one drop was left inside to fall down. He smacked his lips. My, but that is a righteous wine. I'll have another." When Uncle's second cup had been poured, he looked at mine. "Boy, this company was here a year before I even came to the land of the demons, and it was operating successfully for 20 years before I finally joined it. It will go on after me, for this company is an idea. It is a dream that is much older than you or I, and only slightly younger than the world. Men must help one another in dangerous times and places." "Yes, now to the company," Handclap said. We all drank again. Uncle shouted again, "Dry cup," and held his cup upside down. White Deer dumped a big spoonful of rice into Uncle's bowl. "Here, old man, better get something in that stomach of yours before you get sick." If Uncle Brightstar was the father to us, White Deer was something like a mother. We all set to eating then. The talk around the table was about our villages and events in the Middle Kingdom, especially now that the Boxer Rebellion was over for good. But eventually things came around to what Handclap had missed in the demons' land. It turned out that the mad socialist Theodore Roosevelt was going to run for re-election. He had been vice president at the time when the real president, McKinley, had been shot in a provincial city. It was the only way, Uncle solemnly declared, that the crazy demon could have gotten into office. To Uncle's mind, Roosevelt was always trying to wreck the big companies. Uncle was against my tampering with business. Uncle was against any tampering with business, even those belonging to demons. Finally, when everyone had eaten his fill and could not touch another morsel, Uncle announced it was time for the presents. Lefty and White Deer went upstairs. When they came back down, they told me not to look behind me. Our young man must be properly attired. Lefty jammed a black hat down over my eyes. That should keep the sun off your girlish skin of yours. I pulled up the brim and took it off and looked at it, smoothing the crown. Thanks, I said. But are you sure you won't be needing it to keep the sun off that nose of yours? The company all laughed uproariously at that. Even Lefty good-naturedly rubbed his nose. Well, I might just take it back, boy, to hang it on my nose, so best keep an eye on it. White Deer put a tunic and trousers on the table. These are from me, White Deer said. I hope they fit. If not, we'll cut him to fit the we will cut him to fit the clothes, Father said. And these are from me to keep those calloused farmers' feet of yours from wearing out the demons' streets. Uncle Brightstar clomped a pair of boots onto the table. Actually, you're to wear these only when the rain comes, so don't waste the leather in the dry times. Uncle sat back, satisfied, as I admired the shiny black leather. Now, let's see what the Wind Rider has for his son. Father spread his hands on the table. I don't have anything nearly as fine as these things, he said. Why, the Emperor himself would be proud to clothe his son in such fine raiment. Well, the Emperor's son will just have to go naked, Handclap shouted, and they laughed and hooted at that, for there was no love lost for the present Emperor, who was a Manchu, a son of the foreigners who had conquered the Middle Kingdom and who long ago made us wear queues as a sign that we had been beaten by them. The cues were supposed to imitate the tails of horses, as if we were animals who had been tamed. It was death for any Tang man to wear his hair short. Of course, over a period of 260 years, a lot of Tang men no longer knew what the cue had originally symbolized. They could be quite vain about the care of their cues, but that did not mean that they loved the Manchus. And just as a side note, this ponytail in the back of the Wind Rider is a cue, okay? So that's what he's talking about. Go on, fetch your silly toy. Uncle jerked his head at the stairs. With a secret smile, Father disappeared up the stairs. I heard his boots mount the steps heavily. He came down the steps a moment later from his third-floor room. Under his arm, he had a kite. But what a kite! The frame of light bamboo sticks had been bent, tied, and glued into the shape of a butterfly, and then the frame had been covered with rice paper, which is a thin, translucent kind of paper. The paper had been painted in bright blue and green colors. It seemed to tremble in Father's hand. I could see the jets of the gaslights through the tissue-thin paper. The kite seemed to glow and vibrate as if it were alive and breathing in my father's hands. I knew it would fly well when I tried it. It's just a little something, Father said casually. Be careful with it, Uncle warned. But I did not need to be told that. I would sooner have broken my arm. Arms can heal, but not wings like these. What do you say, boy? Uncle poked me in the ribs. Thank you, Father, I said. I wanted to tell him about all the marvelous times I had had flying his kites, but I did not know how. Father rumpled my hair affectionately. You're welcome, boy. They gave you things for your body. I give you something for your soul. At that moment, the bell rang as someone came through the front door. We heard heavy boots come up the stairs. Everyone grew silent in the room. I knew it was Black Dog coming. Black Dog was the son born of Uncle's second wife. Uncle had taken more than one wife, as was the custom. Black Dog was a strange, brooding man in his 40s. Thanks to Uncle's hard work, Black Dog and his brothers and sisters had been raised in luxury back in the Middle Kingdom. He had resented it when his father had made him come to the land of the Golden Mountain. All of a sudden, after living like a young lord, he found himself doing the most drudge-like work. It had not helped matters that he had come during the time of the Troubles, when the demons had roared through the Tang people's town, claiming the Tang people took jobs away from them. They beat up innocent Tang men and hung others by their queues from the lamp posts. Black Dog began to despise his own father. He began to hang out with the brotherhoods who ran the gambling and the prostitution and the drug trade in the Tang people's town, and who were constantly fighting each other over control of various shady activities. Finally, Black Dog had taken to opium. He worked during the day in an offhand, insolent manner, but there was a strangeness to his eyes whenever you spoke to him. Now he stood in the doorway, his hands stuffed into his pockets beneath his huge jacket. He was as tall as Father, but paler, and there was a scar by his right temple that he had gotten in a sword fight. Where were you, boy? Uncle demanded. I told you we were all going to be down at the dock. It slipped my mind, Father. He strolled into the room and picked at the pile of clothes and glanced at the kite. They forgot one thing, Black Dog said. He reached under his tunic, which went all the way past his waist. He tossed a demon's steel knife onto the table. Father swept it up quickly. I'll hold this for you until you need it. He may need it soon, Black Dog said. The demons are all getting drunk and getting ready for beating up Tang men. The word is out to stay inside. Right then, we all heard the sound of a glass window shattering. Uncle led the way down the steps. The left window had been broken and the glass lay scattered across the floor. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop chapter 2, part 2 right here. and maybe finish it in the next video.